Hello. In today's lesson, we're looking at complex numbers as solutions. Our essential question is, how do you find solutions for complex numbers? A quadratic will have imaginary solutions if it has no x-intercepts. Looking at the graph on the right-hand side, you'll notice that this graph doesn't cross the x-axis, which means you have no x-intercepts or zeros or roots or real solutions to this graph. That means you end up with complex or imaginary solutions to this graph. To find the number of solutions, you can use the discriminant, which is the square root portion of the quadratic formula, to figure out how many solutions you have. The discriminant formula is square root of b squared minus 4ac. A negative discriminant means that the quadratic has no real solutions, it just has imaginary solutions. By the way, if you have a positive discriminant, it means you have two real solutions. If you get a zero discriminant, it means you only have one real solution. Two real solutions means it crosses the x-axis twice. One real solution means it crosses the x-axis once. Example 1, use the discriminant to find the number of solutions, then find all solutions. Our equation is x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals 0. Step 1, let's use the discriminant to find how many solutions we have. Remember, the discriminant is the square root portion of the quadratic formula. So we have the square root of b squared minus 4ac, where a equals 1, b equals positive 2, and c equals positive 5. So we have 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all under the square root. 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 times 5 is a negative 20. 4 minus 20 is negative 16, and we have the square root of negative 16. Since our discriminant is negative inside the square root, we have no real solutions, just imaginary solutions. Now, let's look for the solutions. To find the solutions for this quadratic, I'm just going to use the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2. I already did this portion over here, the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So I'm just going to replace the negative b with negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 16, which is this part right here, divided by 2 times a, which is 1. This gives me negative 2 plus or minus, since this is the square root of negative 16, and I'm just going to do the work over here. Square root of negative 16 can be written as the square root of 16 times the square root of negative 1. Square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of negative 1 is I. So this is plus or minus 4i all over 2, which I can break it into negative 2 divided by 2 plus or minus 4i divided by 2 and simplify. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1 plus or minus 4i divided by 2 is 2i. My solution to the quadratic x squared plus 2x plus 5 equal to 0 is x equals negative 1 plus or minus 2i. Example 2, use the discriminant to find the number of solutions, then find all solutions. I've got x squared plus 2x is equal to negative 1. In order to find the solution and find its discriminant, I need to rewrite this in standard form. Because it's a quadratic, I am going to add 1 on both sides, and I get x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0. From here, a is equal to 1, b is equal to positive 2, and c is equal to 1. To find the number of solutions, use the square root part of the quadratic formula, which is square root of b squared minus 4ac. Plug in our values for a, b, and c, and simplify. I have 2 squared, which is 4. Negative 4 times 1 makes this a negative 4. Simplify that. 4 minus 4 is 0, and the square root of 0 is 0. And since I have a 0 discriminant, this means I only have one solution to the quadratic. Solve the quadratic by using the quadratic formula. which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Negative b is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 0 because we've done the work over here, divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Square root of 0 is 0, so I'm left with negative 2 plus or minus 0 is the same thing, so it's just going to be negative 2 divided by 2, which gives me 1. The solution to the quadratic x squared plus 2x is equal to negative 1 is x equals negative 1. All right, that's it from me. I'll see you all soon.